Hey, and welcome back to another video. So in this video, we're going to be talking about deep linking. So you may be wondering, okay, what is deep linking? But essentially, it's what you use in like pretty much all your applications when you tap on a link and it opens up an app installed on your device and goes to a specific screen. So in the iOS world, this could be either a universal link or it could be a custom URL scheme. Now in this video, we're going to be looking at how we can set them up and integrate them within our navigation, as you can see on the screen here, where you tap on a link and it deep links into a specific screen within your app, as well as some handy tools that we can use to make our lives easier, just as essential as McDonald's is in my life. Because I'll be honest, that's an essential, man. You cannot go wrong with McDonald's, man. And then we'll wrap up by looking at what we can unit test, because remember, unit testing is part of your 5 a day. So before we dive straight into the code, I feel like it's really good for us to discuss what is deep linking. Well, essentially, like I said before, it's a link that is intended to send you to an app rather than the website. Now you'll see this with loads of examples, like for, when you're using something like YouTube or Twitter. Now, in order to actually get this working, you need to configure your apps to use a URL scheme. And this is Apple's way of allowing you to open up your app from a URL pattern that you've defined. But in this tutorial, we're just going to be looking at how to use the schemes links. And a good example of this is if you want to share with someone like an item that you saw in a recipe. In the next chapter, we'll just discuss some things that have changed in the project. I've added one new file called a promos views, and then we'll look straight into how to handle setting up, custom URL schemes within our project. So let's do that now. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to do a quick project overview. And if you want to skip this chapter, go for it. But all I've just done now is, before we had a static array of just like products, but I've added in a new class here called a products vector, which acts almost like an API. And we've also got a new view here called promo, which is what we're going to use for just displaying promotions. So now when you view the app, you can see that we have a bit of a spinner when it loads up for the first time. So the navigation is pretty much all the same. There's been a bit of refactoring in terms of how we handle getting the routes that our navigation link should go to by refactoring that out into its own independent function. But all the starter files for this are on GitHub. So how do we actually set up deep links within our Xcode project? So in order to do that, we need to click on our project here and go to the info tab. And on the info tab, you'll see a section here called URL types. So this URL types is where it's going to be listening to the custom URL scheme that we're going to define and say to our app that it should listen to. And the best way to think about the URL scheme is it's literally just a custom, unique URL that your app listens to, and when it registers for that URL and finds it, it will open up your app and you can handle whatever it is you need to do from there. So if you hit plus, okay, cool. So now that we've added this in, we now have some things that we can fill out. Now there's two things in here that we're not going to be touching, and that's icon and editor, because we don't really need to change those. And to be honest with you, there's not a lot of documentation in terms of what they provide, so I just leave them alone basically. But the first thing we need to do here is actually define our identifier for this URL scheme. So the identifier here is going to be the bundle identifier for your project. Now in our case, if we go to sign-in capabilities, that's here. If you have multiple targets, then you have to set up multiple URLs, URL schemes essentially, but we only have one. So we want to copy this and then go back to our URL types and paste it in the identifier here like so. Cool. And now we have the bundle identifier. So this URL schemes is essentially the host part of your app that this is going to listen to. So in our case, you should see on the screen now, the whole part of the URL. For example, if we want to go to a menu, this is going to be the first part of that URL, which is going to be my food app. So we're going to type this out now. So my food app. So this can be the name of your app here instead, if you want to, if you're working with your own project. But if you're working with the starter project, you can just set this here. So what we're saying is that any URL that includes this name in it, it will trigger opening up our application via a link. So the next part I want to do is show you how to actually open up your app from these links. So there's 3 ways of doing this. I'm going to look at the first way now. Now, in order to actually do that, we're going to need to run this on the simulator. So let's just run this on a simulator. because you can't test this out on a SwiftUI preview. So now our app's launched on a simulator. That's all good. Let's just send this to the home screen using Command H, or just treating like an iPhone and going to the home screen. And the first way of testing out a deep link is by actually, going into one of the stock apps such as the, Safari or reminders and adding them in and tapping on them or hitting enter to search for it. So we go into the reminders app. We're going to create a new reminder, and this is going to be the URL scheme for going to a menu item. So let's just add this in now and then break it down. So I'm going to say this is just going to be a test menu. It's just a dummy link. And then in the notes, we're going to write out our URL scheme. Now this is going to be, it has to be spelled the exact same way as what it is in our Xcode project here within the URL type. So it needs to start off with my food app. And then we're going to say, it's pretty annoying, I did the spaces in. So no spaces. Then we're going to say colon and then the slashes and then the path that we want to go to the resource. So just because it's a dummy one, I'm just going to say menu. Cool. So this isn't going to actually do anything specific as of now. We'll look into how we can do that in the next part of this video. But if I tap on this link, you'll now see that it takes me into the application. I can go back and it works fine. So we're going to look at how to handle like different types of, resources here within this tutorial. But for now, this is just for opening up our application suite. So the first way of doing it is by using, this here, as you can see. So the other way to test out deep links within, your apps as well on the simulator is by using the terminal. Now, I have the terminal installed on my machine, but I'll use something called iTerm instead. You don't have to use iTerm to test this out. It's just a different type of terminal application. So I'm just going to use iTerm for this, but if you don't have this, just use the terminal. It's the same thing. We can actually write commands to actually trigger a deep link and simulate it. So what I'm just going to do, just to make this a bit more clearer for you, is actually type out this command and we'll see how this opens up our application using deep links. So the command we need to run is the following one. So it's going to be xc run. And then after saying this command here, what this is going to do is we just need to provide it with the URL scheme that we want it to open up. So in our case, that's going to be this my food app / menu. So let's just add that in. So my food app. So just going to match that. So what you can do is actually hit enter. And you can see here that we get a message telling us that do we want to open up our application. So it's called Introduction to NavigationStack, the project, the name of the app. So we're just going to say, yes, I want to open it. And you can see it now takes us into the application. So that's another way to test out deep links. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing it with the way I showed you with the, stock apps and also as well using the terminal. But in my opinion, the best way to test out deep links is by using this thing that you can see here. You're probably wondering, what's this floating thing that this brother's got on his screen? But essentially what this is an app called RocketSim. So let's go to the website here and I'll leave a link in the description box below so you can check it out. And you can check out rocketsim.app. Now, big disclaimer, this is built by my boy, Antoine, who's an amazing iOS dev. Like, honestly, yeah, guy's such a sound guy, yeah. And, he's basically built this application, which in my opinion is a great way of managing different things that you can do, with the iOS simulator in one place. And just to show you some wholesome content as well, here's a picture of me and him in Singapore holding a baby dragon. Don't you think we'd make some good parents? But not only does he have this RocketSim app, if you actually download RocketSim, so if I just click on download now, this should take me into the Mac App Store, which is open up on my other monitor. But basically you can download it from the Mac App Store here. If you get a Pro license, you get a whole bunch of features which I think are worth it, but you can check out yourself. I'd recommend getting the Pro license because honestly, this saves you so much time, man. But when you download it, you basically get like this menu bar icon to configure your simulator apps, and you get this cool floating window here to also configure actions that you might want to test in your app. So one of the nice things about RocketSim is that it allows you to basically configure deep links within your application. So we can actually just, rather than having like our deep links in the notes or reminder or using a terminal, I can just do it directly within RocketSim. If you have RocketSim on your machine now at the time of this tutorial and it's installed here, so there's two ways of doing what I'm about to do. So you can either open up this option here and go to Deep Link and choose Configure Deep Links, or on the menu bar app, whilst the simulator is running, you can either go to here on the menu bar app and go to settings and configure it from here. But I'm just going to configure deep links from here, and it should open up the settings and this tab where I can configure my deep links. So I can create a group for managing my deep links and my notifications, which we'll get onto in the next video. But for now, we'll just focus on deep links. So let's just create a new group here, and I'm going to call this test deep links. The first thing we're going to need to do is in this group, we want to add in our bundle identifier. Now, if you click on it, it's suggesting me to choose the one that's running in the simulator here. If not, you can type this out by copying it from the sign in capabilities tab. So we'll just tap on this, and this matches our bundle ID within our Xcode project here. So that's cool. And now what we want to do is on the deep links segment control here, I just want to add an action. So if you click on deep links and then go to add action, there's an option to configure each one. So we're going to choose deep link, and we can give this a title. So I'm just going to say here for opening app as a title. And then the URL here is going to be the URL scheme we defined within our simulator. So I'm just going to say my food app menu, like so, and then hit create. And now we have this deep link configured for our application. So I can close this now. And if I go back to my simulator, you'll now see that under deep links, we now have this deep link here for, handling deep links. So they're all organized for me within this floating window whilst my simulator is running. So it's just nicely there and clean. So if I tap on this, you'll now see it opens up my application for me. So for the rest of this tutorial, we're not going to be using notes or the terminal. I mean, if you want to, you can, but I'm going to be using RocketSim because I just like the way it's organized, nice and cleanly. So right now we only have one deep link, and it just generally just opens up our application. But what about if you want to deep link to a specific screen that we've got within our project? I have a view for promotions called a promo view that I want to actually deep link to. So what we're going to do is actually set up a deep link and see how we can handle going to that specific screen within our code. So in RocketSim, let's create another deep link. So we can hit add deep link here, and we'll add an action. And this time we'll create one called dummy promo. And the URL this time isn't going to be /menu, it's going to be /promo. So we're going to say my food app promo, like so. Cool. So let's just close this, and now you'll see our dummy promo here. Go to the home screen. Let's just test this out. You tap on it and it opens up our app suite. But what we want to do is actually push to a promo screen. So in order to do that, we need to actually check to see when our app was opened via a link. So let's just go back into our Xcode project. And when you're working with SwiftUI, at the root of your application, there's actually a modifier you can use called OpenURL. And this lets you listen to when your app was opened from a URL. So let's add this in now. So we're just going to say on our menu view, we're going to use OpenURL here, and then URL. And then for now in here, we're just simply just going to print what we've received and just debug what's going on. So let's just rerun this on the simulator again. Close this, open up our app. And now when we go into the console to see what's been printed, you'll now see that the My Food app is in the console now. So we're now listening to what URLs open up our application. So at this moment in time, in our root enum that we defined in our last video, if you've not watched that, I'll leave it on the screen so you can go and check that out. But we basically built a class, well, not a class, but a file here that controlled all of the configurations in terms of where you can push to and the screens that get presented, on the screen when you want to push to that screen. So we don't have one here for our promo. So we're going to need to add a case in specifically for that screen. So let's say case promo. And then we're going to also need to update our equatable function here. So we're going to just copy this cart one because there's no associated values. And if there is a case promo, so we're comparing two promo cases, we're going to return true because they're the same. And then within our switch statement here, after our map, we also need to say case.promo. And then for now, we'll simply just return our promo view that we've got in our project. Our code for actually checking to see if we want to open up, if our app's been opened from a URL, is in the root of our application. Now, this can't access the router manager that lives within the menu view. So we actually have to bring that view, bring that state object out of the menu view and declare the root of our application. So every single child object, including our menu view, can access that navigation router. So let's go into our menu view and we're going to get this state object for the navigation router and just copy it and define it here at the root of our application because that's where we want it. And then on our menu view here, we're going to use the environment object property wrapper to inject this into the menu view and any children within it. So because we've done this here now, back in our menu view, we need to use the environment object property wrapper to access this router manager. So let's go into our menu view. And rather than this being a state object, this is going to be an environment object. And then we're just going to declare the type to be navigation router like so. So we're not going to create an instance of it like we did before. And I'm just going to turn off the canvas temporarily to create a bit more space so you can see this clearly. Cool. So because we've done this here, the next thing we need to do is actually go all the way down to our previews and inject our router so we don't get a crash in our previews. So navigation router like so. Cool. Back in the root of our application, what we can actually do in here now is actually check what the host of the URL is, and if it matches, a specific string, we can just simply say to our router manager, I want to push to that screen. So in our case, we're going to say that if the host is promo, then push to the promo screen. So let's just remove this print. Let's just say if the URL.host is equal to promo, then we'll say router manager dot push to the promo screen like so. Cool. So the host here in our, schemes is actually going to be, if we just go to our deep links, it's going to be this part of our scheme that we're checking for. So now let's just test this out and see what happens. So we'll run this and go back to our simulator, and we'll put this in the background. And if we was to open this from a deep link, so our promo, you'll now see that it opens up the app and pushes to the promo screen, which is exactly what we wanted. So this is all good. Now, this is good if you're only checking for like one, path, and it's fine. But 9 times out of 10, you might have multiple paths within your application, and putting it all inside of here, in my opinion, it's not the way to go, bro.
Big man thing, yeah. It's not looking good, bruv. It's not looking good.
And the reason why is good, you don't want to tie this part of your app to all the logic in terms of checking like what the host is, because this will get big and grow and you can't really test it. So to make this better, what we should actually do is actually extract the logic that we have for finding out, what file you should actually, push to, or screen, I should say, you should push to, and move that into its own class. Move that into its own object that actually does the checking for us. So what we want is we want to basically build some kind of like route finder that finds out what route the deep link should push to. So let's create a new Swift file called route finder. So the whole point of this file is to figure out, once you receive a deep link, what should it push to? It should tell me where I need to go. So we need to define the different possible deep links that you could possibly handle in here. So I'm going to create an enum called deep link URLs. And this is just going to have different cases for the possible URL, that it could handle. So the first one in our case is going to be promo, as you can see, that we were dealing with before. And we're going to make this a string. And the reason why I'm making this a string enum is so we can actually match it to the raw value of this enum case here. So I can actually define that if the path is this, promo matches this string, then you should, do this. And the do this is what we're going to do now. So I'm going to create a struct called root finder. And then within here, we'll create a function called find from URL, which is going to accept a URL. And this will return an optional root. And the reason why it's optional is because if the root isn't valid, then it will just return nil and we can handle it from there. Within this find function, we're going to get the host that we were checking from before and actually write logic to see if it's this host, then return this root and go to this screen. So let's first of all just get our host, which is actually an optional, so we need to unwrap it. So we're going to say guard let host is equal to url.host, or else if it can't unwrap it, return nil. So if this fails, just basically stop execution and just return nil. We'll handle the nil for the unregistered root. Now, what we want to do here is actually check to see if the host is equal to the, string promo, then we want to return the root for our promo. And this root is what we defined before in this enum to go to this promo. So the best way to think about what we're doing here is we're essentially just mapping what we get back from our deep link to the screen that you should go to. That's all we're doing. So we're going to do a switch statement. And we're going to use the host string to basically match it to the string for our enum. So we can actually create this enum from its raw value. So we're going to say switch deep link URL raw value host. And because the host in this case for promo that we're going to be testing in is a string promo, it will match it to this case here. So on the switch statement, we can open this up and say case.promo. And then all we simply want to do here is just return .promo, the root. Now by default, if it doesn't match any of this, then we're just going to return nil and it won't do anything. So now let's go into our, let's go back into our main app entry point and replace the code that we had before to use this new root finder. So we go back into our app entry point, we can remove this code temporarily. We're going to use this push again, but just delete all so we can start fresh. And we're going to create an instance of our root finder at this point. And then now we're going to say here, if let root is equal to root finder dot find from the URL. So if it gets back a valid root to push to, we can now say root manager dot push to root. Cool. So let's just test this out and see what happens. So we're going to run this. And we'll just put this in the background. And if we open up our app from the promos, you'll see that it works fine. But one thing I just want to show you that we've not taken into account is that if I actually tap on this deep link again, you'll see that it opens up the promos. But now what's happened is that if I tap back, I'm not going back to the menu. I'm going back to the previous screen. So it's actually possible for us to keep on adding on top of our array and just adding multiple views of the same type of view, which is what we kind of want to avoid because you don't want to keep on add. Now, if you do want that functionality, then that's cool. You can, don't write this code. But in my case, I don't want that functionality. I just only want to be able to have that screen on the stack once and that's it. So what we're going to need to do is in our push function, we want to essentially check to see if this array already contains that type of screen. If it does, then don't do this append, just basically stop execution. So quite simple, the code we need to write for this. We just want to say guard, and then we're going to say roots.contains screen, else return, and then we're going to use the bang operator here. So what we're basically saying here is that if the root doesn't contain the screen already that we passed into this function, then continue, or else stop execution with this return. So now let's test out that deep link again. So we just go back to our home screen and then tap on this again. So we can see our promos, which is great. But if we tap on promos again, you'll see that it doesn't add another promo on because there's already a promo within the roots array that our navigation stack is listening to. So we've got what we wanted, and we can go back to our menu, just close this. And if we use our original deep link that we've not registered for, so this is just the menu, you'll see that it just opens up our app. It doesn't actually push to any screen. So this is working perfectly fine. What I want to do now is when you actually, and by the way, you don't always have to put the app in the background to test out a deep link. You can actually test it whilst the app is open. So if I tap on this and go to the promo, I can test that out as well. But what I want to see now is how we can actually pass data through a deep link. So right now, this is some hard-coded data about a promotion. What about if I want to pass through the information to actually build up this promotion screen dynamically and set the percentage, description, all that kind of stuff? Well, when working with deep links, they're essentially still like URLs, and you can use something called a query parameter. And what query parameters allow you to do is actually pass data, through a URL using the question mark and the ampersand for like key value pairs. So what we're going to do is actually just define a URL with our promos with a set of query parameters. So two, so one for the description and one for the percentage, and then see how we can extract this within our code. So we just go back to our deep link. So by tapping on add deep link, and this dummy promo, I'm going to edit it. And this time on the end of this URL scheme, we're going to use the question mark and then the word discount. So this is the key for our query parameter in this case. So when you set up a query parameter, the first key value needs to have a question mark before it. And then the value, you just use the equals afterwards. And then in our case, we're going to say 0.5, so 50%. But we'll do something different so we know it's working. So we'll do 30%. So we'll do 0.3. And then if you want to add multiple key values to a URL for a query parameter, you just use the ampersand, and then we can define another key. So in this case, it's going to be desk, which is description, equals. And because there's some spaces in this description, you can use a plus to basically, handle a space, because you're not allowed to have a query parameter value with spaces in it. It just won't work. So we're just going to say enjoy plus this plus discount. Cool. So we're just going to say that for the value to handle the spaces, and we'll handle this in code. So we're just going to update this. And what we want to do now is those pluses that we added, we need to actually extract them and replace them with spaces when we want to handle it in our code when we're getting the data. So back in our root finder file here, I'm just going to add a bit of a snippet for handling just that scenario. So this code snippet that I've got here will help us access the key and the value from the query parameters as a dictionary. Now I ain't gonna lie to y'all, I nabbed this from Stack Overflow. So this is from Stack Overflow. So whoever you are out there, shout outs to you, yeah. But so what we're essentially doing is we're getting the URL and we're converting it into a URL components. And if you've never worked with URL components before, it allows you to break up a URL into its components like the name implies. And within the URL, you can access the query items, which is the query string that I was talking about before. And we just got a reduce function here that converts that into a dictionary where you have the key and the value. Now, what we do need to do on this value here is if it does have pluses, we need to replace that with spaces. So we can do that by replacing occurrences of the plus with a space like so. Cool. So now that should build, and this will replace our pluses with spaces when we have that in our value. So what I just want to do is actually just show you what this actually looks like when you try to access the query parameters. So if we just go back to our main app entry point, and if we just put a breakpoint on line 20 and run this, let's just tap on our promo deep link, and that triggers a breakpoint, which is what we want. You can see our query parameter, well, our URL with the query parameters here. And I can just simply say print out URL and use query params with that extension with the property that we just added in. And if we print this out, once it prints by using PO in the, mine went blank with PO in the terminal, You can see here that we have a dictionary where we have our description with our text that's removed the pluses with spaces and our discount with a string 0.3. So this is doing exactly what we want it to do. So now that we have this set up, we're going to need to make a bit of a change to our root promo. And the reason why I say that is because that data that we have in the query string, we need to actually pass that into the view. So back in our root file, we're going to need to add an associated value for this promo here, because we're going to need to add in, a way to pass that data through. So within this file, I'm just going to create a new struct called promo data. And this is going to accept a description as a string and also a percentage as a decimal as well. Cool. And then we're going to add it in as an associated value to here. So we're going to say data, promo data, which is what we'll pass into that view. Okay, sweet. And now when we scroll down in our promo, we actually want to access the promo data from here. So we're going to say let data. And we need to find a way to pass this into the promo view so we can build the view and passing that data into this screen. So in our promo view, let's add a new property in here. And rather than us having all this hard-coded information about the promo, I'm just going to create a new property in here called data, promo data. And this should complain and have a load of errors, which is what I want. So we're going to replace this with data.percentage. And then in our text here for our description, we're going to say data.description, like so. Cool. So in our preview, this should also complain, which is what I expect. We're going to initialize it with a value like enjoy, discount. And in the percentage, we'll give it a percentage like 0.3. So this should be all good. Cool. So now our view is accepting that data there, which is what we want. Now in our root, we should get an error because now this view is expecting some kind of data, which is what we want. So let's add that in. And now we're going to pass in the data from our enum into this view. So now we have it set up in our root where we pass the data from our root enum case into the promo view. So back in here, we need to actually write some code within our root finder now to actually extract those values and build the data that gets passed through our enum case. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to type this out and then we'll break it down together. So let's just look at our code that we have here. So what we're saying is that I want to use the URL query parameters extension that we defined here to extract those query parameters into a dictionary. And then within our dictionary, we're going to access the values using those keys, description, and discount to unwrap them as strings. Now, our discount is actually a decimal. So we're going to try and convert the string into a decimal value. And if any of these fail, then we're just going to return nil. So we need to pass in a valid, description and a valid discount for us to be able to continue onto this bit here. So what we're doing here is building up our struct of our promo data. And then now what we're going to do is actually pass that promo data into our promo enum case with the associated value that we defined before. So now we're extracting the data from our query parameters and making sure that it matches our struct in terms of what it is we need. And then finally saying, here's the promo with the associated value with that data, present this screen. So now if we just go back into our main app entry point, let's just test this out. So let's just run this. So let's just tap on our deep link to go into a promotion. And you'll now see that we see the 30% that we put in the query parameters and also the text, enjoy this discount. So now we're able to pass data through a deep link, which is pretty sweet. What I want to do now is we actually have this button here where we can apply a discount. But what I want to do is I want to have it where if you tap on this button, it actually manipulates the stack by applying a discount, dismissing this, and then going to the cart so we can see the discount within our application. So we're going to make a few tweaks to our app now. Now, similar to what we did before with our router, we don't have access to our cart manager at the root of our application. So we're also going to extract that out to the root here so we can access it from the top and also as well within any of our child views. So let's go into our menu view and we're going to take out our cart manager. So just copy this and then just paste it here like so. And then we're going to use the environment object modifier to inject this in. So say cart manager. And then back in our menu view, we're going to turn this into an environment object. So let's do that now and declare the type. All right, cool. Pause. And then down in our previews, we're going to say environment object. And then in here, we're going to say cart manager, which is our type. So shopping cart manager, and build it, and it's all good. So we have this now available in all of the views that are children of our menu view, and we need to have access to both of the cart manager and the route manager within our promo view. So let's just copy this, and then back in our promo view, we're going to need to add in the environment object so we can access the cart to apply the discount and the route manager to manipulate the stack. So we're going to say here, cart and route managers environment objects. And if we scroll down, we need to also in the preview inject them as well. So we're going to say navigation router like so. And then we're also going to say shopping cart manager like so. So now we have all of that in place. Back in our menu view as well, we did have it where we were actually injecting our cart manager and our router manager, but because it's now being done at the top in our main app entry point, we don't actually need this code here anymore. So you can remove that from the menu view and everything should work just fine. Now back in our cart manager, our shopping cart manager, it doesn't actually have any kind of code for managing promotions. So we're going to need to create a published property that allows us to actually set the promo that someone wants to apply. So let's create a new published property here for the promo data. So what I've just got here is a published property where it's a private set and it's just going to hold that promo data. And we also need a property, well, we also need a function in here to set this promo and also remove it as well. So let's add those in now. So now we have a function to set the promo, which will just assign the data that we passed through our, deep link into that property. And we also have a remove from promo function to actually set that back to nil when we want to remove the promotion from, this cart manager. In our promo view, we have a button in here called apply discount, and we want to use our cart manager to set this to the promo data that we passed in. So we're going to say cart manager dot set promo to data like so. But now that we've also set the promo data in here, we also need a function to help us replace the stack with the, navigation stack that we want. And in our case, that's going to be the main menu view and also the cart view. So back in our navigation router, I'm just going to create a new function called replace stack, and this is going to hold an array of routes like so. Cool. And then all this is simply going to do is just replace the routes array with the stack that we pass in. That's it. So in our promo view, after we call apply, to set the discount, we just need to call that function. And I'm just going to say router manager dot replace stack with cart like so. So just will replace it with that. Now, one thing to note as a disclaimer is that at this moment in time, when you do this technique, it's not animated for you. Hopefully the SwiftUI team can do that because it'd be pretty nice, but it's not going to animate. It's just going to replace the screen with the cart and it'll just go straight to it. So there's still two more things that we need to do before we actually test this out. And the first thing is back in our cart view, we now need to use that promo to actually display what promotion someone has on the screen. So just above our section here where we show the total, I'm just going to write some code for displaying the total, for displaying the promo. So what we're doing here is we're unwrapping the promotion within the cart if it's been set, and just creating a section to display either the promotion amount as a percentage or non-available with some text in terms of what the name is. And then I've put a swipe action on this label content to remove the promo if you know, swipe across, show him, and it will basically show the trash image. So you can remove a promotion from your shopping cart. Now, at this moment in time, the total doesn't also take into account the percentage. So we need to refactor that function to calculate the promotion amount properly. So let's go into our total function. And I'm just going to refactor this to take into account our promo. And now what we're doing is we're calculating all the items that we have within our cart to get a total. We're unwrapping the discount if there is one. So if there isn't a percentage, then just return the total. If there is, then continue. And that continue is going to be the total subtracted from the discounted amount on the total, so we can figure out the percentage that someone has off their basket. So now we have everything in place to actually test out promotions within our app, so we can test it out in our store. So let's run this and see what happens. And now if you tap on the dummy promotion, it will go to this screen. If we tap on apply discount, it will replace the stack, as you can see here. And we've now got a 30% discount on the items that we're going to add into our basket. So let's just add a few items. And if we go back, you'll see here that when I've added a burrito that was $7.99, I've got 30% discount, and it's applied that discount onto the total within my basket. So this is pretty sweet, man. So you can see here that we're actually starting to now get a bit of an actual store now in terms of like adding items to a cart and having discounts via, you know, deep links within our application. Cool. So we've got deep links for open up a promotion. But what about if I actually want to have a deep link for actually pushing to an individual item that's within my menu? So I want to open up the burrito screen or the burger screen, for example. Well, what we're going to need to do is we actually want to have a function, first of all, in our fetcher to help us fetch an individual product based on its ID. Now, this isn't a real API. It's just like a, you know, some code to fake it. But in our fetcher, we're going to create a function that helps us get a product by its ID. And if you're working with a real API, you want to talk to your backend developers to give you a endpoint to actually fetch a single product by its ID, because it's just way more performant. So we're going to add some code in to help us fetch items, and then add a deep link to actually go into an item screen like this. So let's go back into our code base, and what we want to do is in our product fetcher, what we're going to do is actually create a new function to actually fetch a product by its ID. So I'm going to type this out and then we'll break it down. So this function fetch product by ID, accepts an ID, which is the identifier of an item in the list, and it's asynchronous using Swift concurrency, which if you want to check out, I have a free course on. It's using async await, and it just simply returns the protocol any menu, so it can, you know, it's not tied to a specific type. It's just using the protocol, so we can handle that to basically allow different types of menu items. So I'm just simulating a ½ second wait here with the API. We're going to loop through all the products, because right now this is a section. It has sections for each product. So it's going to loop through each section, flatten it into an array of all the items, and then find the first one where the ID matches what we pass into the function, and simply return it if it's there. So the next thing that we're going to do is actually create a deep link to actually navigate to a product. Now we're going to need to use the ID of a product, and in order to get the ID, what you want to do is if you go to the file, food, the ID property is basically a combination of the name and the title separate with an underscore. So in this case, it will be burrito, this burrito emoji underscore the text burrito, and so on and so forth. So all you got to do to go to an item is like basically combine it like this. So you just want to do the emoji underscore the name. So in situations where it has a space like ice cream, if we just scroll down to ice cream, it will be the ice cream emoji like that. So it would be the ice cream emoji and then underscore ice. screen, which is the actual name of the product. Now, if you want to change all of these to be your IDs, by all means do that. But in this video, I'm just going to be working with this pattern here essentially. So we need to create a deep link that matches this here. So I'm going to do this with ice cream. I'm going to create a new deep link. So let's go to add action, deep link, and then we're going to say open item. And then we're just going to use the ice cream emoji, so we know it's for ice cream. And then the URL again is going to be my food app : this is going to be product for the host, and then we're going to need to use the question mark for the query parameter, and it's just going to be item equal to the ice cream emoji again. And then this is going to be, underscore ice, and then plus cream. So we're matching the ID in our model, and then hit update. So now we have a new route in our deep link for, going to a product. So we're going to hit update here, like so. Cool. So what we want to do is in our deep link routes that we have in our route finder, we now need to add product as an enum case. So if we just go back to our project and go to our route finder, we now want to go in here and say case product, like so. So this is going to create a new string for the raw value of this to be product. So you can't see it, but what it's basically doing is this. So the raw value will be this string product if you want to initialize it. But rather than just typing that out, I'm just going to leave it out because we don't need to add it in because it does it for us automatically. But what we do need to do is we do need to add our case in here to actually extract the query parameters and extract that, ID from the key item. So underneath here where we have a promo, we're going to say case.product, and then we're literally going to copy what we have here in terms of getting the query parameters. And then this time we're going to guard let item query val is equal to query params. And then the key here is going to be item, because that's what we put in our deep link, as string, or else return nil. So if we extract the value from item as a string, we can now basically, do some work with it. But we have a bit of a problem here. And the problem that we have is that our code for getting an item by its ID is actually in our product fetcher. Now, right now, this this route finder doesn't have any awareness of that fetcher at all. So what we're going to need to do is actually inject our fetcher into this function using dependency injection so we can access that fetcher to get a product. So after here, we're going to just hit enter. I'm just going to say product fetcher. And then the type here is going to be our products fetcher, like so. Cool. So now we're able to use the function that we created before to find the product by its ID within this enum case here to get us that item. Now, because that function is using async await, we're actually going to change this find function to be an asynchronous function as well. So let's just mark this as async. And then in here, we're going to say let product is equal to await. And then we can now say fetcher, product fetcher dot find, fetch product by item query val, like so. And I'm just going to put this into the optional chaining, like so. So if this messes up, because this returns an optional, so if this does mess up, then it'll return nil. But if not, at the end here, we're going to return our menu item. And then the item associated value here is going to be the product that we got from our fetcher. Cool. Let's build this. And that's cool. So we should have some build errors because we've now made this an async function and we've added a new parameter within this function. So let's go into here. What we need to do is we need to wrap this code in an async, like a task, and also pass in our fetcher. But our fetcher, like our cart manager and our route manager, is within our menu view. So again, we need to extract that out and move it to the root of our application. So let's go into our menu view. and copy our state object, and we'll put it here like so. And then back in our menu view, we're going to use the environment object and then define the type. Oof. Define the type here as products fetcher like so. Cool. And because we've done this, we now need to also inject it into our previews like so. Cool. So now we're able to access this from the root of our application. So we can now say here, fetcher, products fetcher is equal to fetcher, and it will complain because it's async, which is correct. So to fix that, we just want to use a task and put this within a task like so. And then use the await keyword before the find function because we want to await this asynchronous function, and this should build. And before we test this out, we also need to inject our fetcher as well. So we're going to say environment object fetcher like so. So now let's run this and test it out. And the app's going to launch. And now if I tap on the deep link to go to a specific item, you'll see that it takes me to ice cream. Now the beauty of this finder, I mean, the beauty of it is, like I said before, because it's just simply doing like mapping from your data to the roots that you define in your roots, and you just basically just return the enum case. As long as you have the data, you know, matching what it is that you need, when you return that root, the root finder will just handle it for you. So we can just build on top of this and just keep on returning roots for whatever deep links we want, and we don't need to change any of this code. It will all be handled for us. It's all encapsulated within this root finder, which is what makes this really nice.
Beautiful.
So we've handled opening up like a product that you want to push to, but what if you're in a scenario where you want to push to a product that doesn't exist? So an invalid product that's been removed from the store for whatever reason. Now I'm going to create another deep link, and we'll go on add action. And this time, this deep link is going to go to a product with an invalid ID. So I'm just going to say here, invalid product. And then it's going to be my food app. We're going to use the same host here of product. But this time, when we use the item key, we're actually just going to pass in something that I know isn't going to work, which is these X's, because I know that's an invalid, you know, product. So we'll hit create. Cool. So now that we've done that, if we actually go back and actually tap on this invalid product, you'll see that when you tap on it, it doesn't really do anything. But what we do want to do is we want to show someone some information to say, you know, this doesn't exist anymore. So back in your project, let's create a new Swift file called invalid product view that will just like tell you that the product isn't available anymore. So I'm going to create a new Swift file, then we'll break it down. So this is just a stat view with some text. Now, I'm not going to be passing any data into this view because I've showed you how to do that before. So if you do want to do that, then by all means, apply the practices, you know, the things that I've taught you in this video, rewatch it and apply it to this view. All this is just going to do is just tell you that there's an invalid product with some static strings. So what we will need to do is that back in our root class, we are going to need to define a new case for a root that you could actually go to. So this case here, this time is going to be invalid product. Cool. And then in our comparison with our enum case, we also need to update this to be invalid product as well. So we're going to say invalid product like so. And then within our configuration, after the promo, we're going to say case.invalid product. And then we're just going to return our invalid product view like so. So now we have that configured for that root. Let's go back into our root finder, and instead of us returning nil for when it can't find a product, we're just going to return here the root to go to the invalid product screen. So let's just test this out and run it again. And just put that in the home screen. And then this time, when you actually open it up from the invalid product, you'll now see that it actually takes us to the screen to say, you know, this product doesn't exist anymore. So we're just literally now at this point, just telling our, you know, route finder what route to map this, you know, host to and push to. So it's pretty simple to see that how you can actually add this and it can, like, you know, be scalable. So just to make this a bit more clearer in terms of what this is actually doing, I mean, you don't have to do this, but it's just I want to create one function that just clearly states the role of this code. I'm going to create an extension on the introduction navigation stack, and I'm just going to create a function that just literally just says handle deep link. So it just clear to say that this code is for handling the deep linking. So handle deep link from URL, and it's just going to accept the URL, and it's just going to be an async function. Simply just going to copy all the code in here, we'll cut it, and then in our task, just create a function where we say await handle deep link from URL, like so. So it doesn't add, this doesn't add any kind of performance or, you know, anything like that. All this does is just makes it more readable to say we're handling deep linking. If you wanted to, you could leave this here before and just put a comment, but I just want to do this for preference. So before we wrap up this video with some like unit tests as well, just to make sure that our route finder is all good, I just want to add the ability for someone when they go into a detail screen here to basically create a link that they can share with other people. And if someone taps on that link, it will open up our application. Now, in order to do that, we're going to need to go into one of our detail views. So for example, our food detail view, and add in a button to the right-hand side of our, you know, navigation stack, the right-hand side of our view in the toolbar, so you can actually tap on it to share a link. So let's go into our menu view first of all. Let's go into our food detail view. And we're just going to bring back our canvas so we can see this whilst we're designing it. So we just want to add in the share button here in the top right hand corner. So on our list below our navigation title, we're just going to add in a toolbar with some content. And this is just going to have a toolbar item where the placement, so let's just do that again. So toolbar item. Now, in order to toolbar item. Now we want this one with the placement. Now to get all the options, you have to hold down the option key on your Mac and then hit enter. And then we're going to say primary action on this screen. And then in the content here, we're just going to add in a share link. Now you might be wondering, what is a share link, bro? And a share link is a new view that's been provided to us by Apple that we can use in SwiftUI starting from iOS 16. So it helps us use the default share tray that you get in iOS in SwiftUI. So we just go to the documentation. We just scroll down on the documentation. You can see here that we can actually set up a share link with a URL to a link that we want to go to, as well as a preview with like an image of what we want to put on the preview within our, you know, share sheet view. Now, I'm not going to set up the preview because I don't really want to do that. I just want to set up a URL. But for now, I'm just going to set up a share link to go to my website just so I can show you it in action. We go back to our toolbar item. What we're going to do in here is just create a link that's just hard coded to go to my website. Force and wrap it. And then we're going to say share link item, and then just type label. And we want the one where you get an item and the label. So the label is the custom view that gets presented, you know, that's wrapped, that's within the share link. So it's what the share link is wrapped around. So let's hit enter. And then for our item, this is going to be our link. And for our label, this is just going to be an SF symbol, which is going to be the share icon. So I'm just going to add this in now, like so. Cool. And now we have this within our previews. So if you just go into our SwiftUI preview and you tap on the share link, you'll see that we get the default, you know, system URL, well, the system share sheet, so we can do all the share stuff in here. We can't actually test out adding this to the reminders of our, you know, previews because this doesn't have the reminders app on it. So to actually test this out and see what happens when we add it to the reminders, let's just run this on the simulator. And then go into our food item view, click on the share link. And then add it to our reminders like so, and then go back to the home screen. And if we go into the reminders, you'll now see that there's the link that I created in the reminders. If I tap on this, it should open up my website, tons.dev. So there we go, we're on the tons.dev website. So this is looking all good. Now, one thing I do want to say about ShareLink at this moment in time is that I think there's a bit of a bug with it. And the reason why I say that is because when you even use the sample code from the documentation, you get these warnings about like main thread stuff. So I think Apple needs to fix this one. But at this moment in time, based on the documentation, this doesn't crash. But probably in the next release, they'll probably like resolve any kind of warnings at the recording of this video. So this toolbar, we're going to need to add it to our, we've got it on our food. We're going to need to also add this to our, drinks and our dessert detail view. But right now, this is only hard coded to use the tons.dev URL, which isn't great. What we want to do instead is we actually want to basically build up the deep link that we can share with someone else within our route. So in our case, we want to build up a deep link for a product using the information that we have within our, menu item. So let's go into our root view. Well, our root, enum. And then within here, we need to create a static function that allows us to basically build a deep link. Now, you might be wondering, why am I doing it as a static function? Well, the reason being is that I don't want to have to create an instance of this enum to use this function. I just want to say root.build me a deep link. So let's just scroll down here and we're going to create another extension. So we're going to say extension on root, and then we're going to create a static function called build deep link from the root that you pass in, and it will accept a root, and then we'll return some kind of URL. That'll be optional. Cool. Sweet. So what we're saying here is that we're not actually like binding it to a root, so you have to have a root. What we're saying here is that if you pass in a root to this function, then it will give me back a deep link URL. So within here, I'm only doing this for a single product. So we need to have a switch statement where if it's a menu item, we're going to build the URL for that deep link. So let's say here, switch on the root. And for now, we're just going to say, we're just so we can get rid of any errors, we'll just say default. And on the default, we'll just return nil, which is as expected. And on the menu item case here, we're just going to say let item, like so. Cool. Now, I'm going to type this out and then we'll break it down because it's going to be quite a bit of code. What we're saying here is we're going to get the title from our, item. And if there's any spaces in the title, such as ice cream, then we're going to replace that with the pluses like we did in our deep link. And then we're going to build the ID using the name and our new query product item where we replace any spaces with pluses. Then we're going to set up our URL scheme here. And then we're going to create some URL query items. So this URL query items is essentially your query parameters, but you're doing it in Swift. So you can have an array of, different query parameters. So you can see here the name and the value like you would like a dictionary. And then on our URL, we're going to append those query items that we set up. And then finally, we're just going to return the URL. So we're literally just creating the string that we created in RocketSim, but we're doing that directly in code here. That's what we're doing. So now back in our navigation pause. So now back in our food detail view, rather than us having a hard-coded link like this, we can now use that function from before to actually create the deep link URL. So let's do that now. So we're simply just going to say here, if let deep link is equal to root.build deep link from, and what we want to pass in here is this is a menu item, and the menu item associated value that we have is in this file is going to be food. So we're going to pass in the food constant that we have at the top here into the menu item. And then we're just going to safely unwrap this like so. And then within here, what we can now do is we don't really need this link here, so we can remove that. I'm just going to cut this share link and then put this deep link in this item property here like so. Okay, cool. So now this will build a deep link for us, and then we pass that into the share link, so we have our deep link. So let's just first of all just test this out to see if it works, and then if it does work, then we'll apply it to our drinks and our detail view. So just go close this. Just go open this, and I'm just going to go into a food like burrito, and then the share, and then we'll create a new reminder to store it in there. Now, one thing to note is that because it's an emoji, it's got to have this weird string stuff, so it's fine. It's not unexpected. So let's just create a reminder here to order burrito. Hit add. Let's get off this screen, go into our reminders, and we'll see our deep link here. So let's tap on this, and you'll see that it pushes us into our burrito screen. So this is working fine. So what we do need to do is apply this onto our drinks and our dessert view. So what I could do if I really wanted to, but I'll be honest with you, I've been recording for too long. But what I could do is I could refactor this out into a view modifier, and that's a challenge I'm going to set for you, so you can do that. But for now, for this video, I'm just going to copy and paste this onto the other, views. So let's go into our drink detail view, and underneath our navigation title, I'm just going to paste that in and replace food with drink. And then we'll go to dessert and replace underneath here. We'll say rather than food, this will also be dessert. So now each type of menu item will basically get its own deep link built for it. So you can test it out and it should work. Cool. So we've wrote a lot of code there, and we're handling getting routes from the deep link and mapping it to a route in our route finder and going to a screen. And there's a lot of things that could potentially go wrong, let's be honest. Now I'm going to write some unit tests for the route finder to show you how to unit test this. I'm not going to be writing tests for the fetcher. If you want to learn how to test a API and mock it with fake data, then check out the unit testing course that I mentioned, check out the unit testing course that's on my channel, and you can check it out on my website. You should see it on the screen here. But we're going to create some tests for the route finder. So we'll have a unit test file here where we'll be unit testing the route manager. But what I want to do now is create a test for our route finder. So let's create a new file called route finder tests. So I'm just going to do a bit of typing, and then we'll break down what we have so far. So what I've just done is I've imported the NavigationStack target, and I've also set up as well the system of the tests that we want to test, which is our route finder as well as our fetcher. So on each run of our test, we'll get a clean route finder and a clean product fetcher. Now we're going to work through each one of these tests and make sure that everything's okay. So let's start off with the first one. So the first test that we're going to do is actually making sure that our promo link that we set up is actually defined. The first thing we're going to do is actually make sure that when we actually receive a promo link, that it actually passes that deep link properly, and the whole data is matching what we expect. So I'm going to type it out and then we'll break it down. All right, sweet. So now that we have this, and it's just using the deep link that I defined in the RocketSim, and I've now marked this function as throws because we got a try here, so it could throw some kind of error. So we're setting up a URL here where it's going to try and unwrap this URL. If it can't unwrap this URL using XCT unwrap, then this test is actually going to fail. So it'll fail early. Now, if it can, we'll get the URL, and then under our system on the test, which is our route finder, we're going to pass in the deep link and our fetcher. And what we should get back is a promo data that has this text and percentage. I'm just going to compare both of these to see if it is the same promotion. So we're just going to need to do a comparison with these two to see if they are the same promotion. Now, one thing that I just realized and I remember is that on the promo data, I actually didn't make this equatable. So if we just scroll down to the equatable here, if both of the cases match, it's actually just going to always pass this, which is what we don't want. We want it to compare the associated value to make sure that they're both actually the same. So to resolve this on here, we're just going to make this equatable. And then now on our enum case here, we're just going to compare both the left-hand side and the right-hand side. So let's just do that now. And then here, we're just going to compare the left-hand side item to the right-hand side item. So this will be a more accurate check of the associated value data that comes back from our promo within our deep link. So let's just go back to our test and we're going to run this. Let's see what happens. And you'll now see that our test passes because the data that we pass in this string and we create here matches the enum case that we're returning in our system under test. Cool. So we move on to the next one. And this is now going to test to see if we pass in a root without a description, we should get back nil, because in our root finder, we said that if any of the keys are missing, then for the promo, if it should return nil. So let's just type this out and then break it down. So now what we're saying here is we're going to test the promotion link, like I said before, but this time we don't have a description like we do here. So this should return nil. So again, if it fails to unwrap this, then we'll throw early. That's why this function is marked with the throws keyword. And we're going to await our system under test to find the deep link URL with the fetcher. And then this find function should return nil, which is why we're asserting and checking to see if it's nil. So let's run this test. Let's see what happens. Cool. And now you'll see that this test passes. So we move on to our next test. And this is now us handling our product link, deep link. So on our product link deep link here, we want to make sure that when you pass a product with the valid ID, we should actually get back that product so we can handle pushing to it. So let's type this out as well. So in this unit test here now, again, we've marked it as throws because we're trying to unwrap and get the first one where the ID matches this ID here, which is ice cream. If we get an ice cream, we're actually going to build the deep link using the ID. So our function to build this deep link. So now we're actually kind of testing this deep link function here as well, 2 for 1. So a 2-for-1 combo. So we're basically testing this function. We're going to build a deep link from that ice cream ID. And then in our system under test, we're going to find our, ID. Pause. We're going to find our root for a menu item using that deep link and our fetcher. And it should match this here. So it should be a menu item with the values from the ice cream. And then these two should be the same. So let's just run this test and see what happens. Okay, cool. So that works. And then finally, what we want to do here is actually test to see if we pass in a item that has an invalid ID, do we get back the case invalid product? So let's do that now. So again, what we're doing is we're going to build our ID, build our deep link using an invalid ID here, try and unwrap it, which is why this has been marked with throws as usual. Try and find the product using the URL that we're going to pass in, and then the result of this from the root should match invalid product. So this should be an invalid product when we do the matching with the unit test with the XCT assert equal. So let's run this test and see what happens. Cool. So now all our tests are passing for our deep link. So we can now safely assume that our root finder and also our build deep link function works fine. So what you could do if you wanted to basically specifically unit test the build deep link is actually write another test here to do that. But I'll leave that in your hands if that's something you want to do. So one final thing I just want to talk about before we wrap up is when you're working with deep links with custom URLs, don't put in sensitive data. Right, man. So we're at the end. So I'll be honest, that was a lot of content I showed you there in terms of handling deep link. We covered a lot of things. To be honest with you, If you need to rewatch this back or certain chapters, you know, do at your own pace. But there's a lot of content here in terms of how you can handle deep linking in SwiftUI. Once you kind of get this architecture and this design pattern down that I've kind of like come up with and how I would approach it, I feel like it's quite scalable and quite nice to use in your SwiftUI apps. So if you enjoy this video and you enjoy my teaching style, I do have, you know, courses that you can check out on my website as well. Also as well, if you want to donate and support me in a monetary way, I really appreciate it. And you can do that by using the thanks button in the, you know, little box, you know, but a bit here on YouTube at the bottom, and also on Coffee as well as joining my, you know, YouTube membership to help support me as well, so I can continue doing what I love, which is teaching others how to build iOS apps and just software in general. I just like teaching people. Now, if you don't want to, you know, support me in a monetary way, that's fine. But what you can do to help me out is actually share the video, comment, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to get updates for when I release a new video. I want to say thank you to all my YouTube, you know, members for supporting me. I really do appreciate it. That's everything from me. I'll catch you in the next video. Deuces.